Joined by UMass Boston Baseball coach Brendan Eygabroat. Coach, first off, how have you handled a tumultuous preseason?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been an unusual preseason, but the guys have put in a lot of work on their own before we got going, and I think the days that we've been out there and been able to practice, I really like what I see, and I think we're taking a no excuses mentality into the season. I think there's been a ton of teams impacted by COVID. I don't know any teams that haven't been impacted by it. So it just is what it is. We just got to keep working and keep finding ways to get better each day.
Speaking of the guys, who are some guys who have maybe surprised you or have improved since the last time you saw them out at Monon Park?
I think a couple early season standouts. I've been very happy with Aiden Blake and Gianni Zerilli. They're two young infielders from last year. I think they've come in. They look like they're physically matured more. They've both been playing very well on the defensive side of the ball, and both possessed good bats when we recruited them. But that even looks like it's trending upwards. So I've been very excited about them. Another sophomore in that class, Chris Duco, who's an outfielder, is very dynamic. He's got a lot of speed. He's got some pop in his stick. He'll be competing for some time in the outfield. So I've been very excited about him. And I think on the mound, also in that sophomore class, Alex Amalfi and Dylan Ryan have both showed really well early in the season, along with Timmy Ciolo and Alessio Presamarita and Ethan Herrera have all really done a great job on the mound.
Southern Maine's going to be playing game 18. You're going to be playing game 1. You certainly had this issue where maybe you're playing a team in Florida that's playing their 10th game and you're playing your first. How do you have to attack a game mentally like this where obviously there's going to be some differences in terms of how many reps they've had versus you guys? How do you attack mentally to try to give yourself the best chance of winning?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing is where we're headed is more important than where we currently are. But I think, again, we're not looking for excuses. We're not going to roll over. We're not going to go in and give up a league game and treat it like a scrimmage. We're going in there to win. We know Southern Maine's never won at Monon Park, so I feel like that's definitely an advantage. And we play on our turf and our field all the time. And we have a talented group. We've got a bunch of really talented transfers. We have some very good pitchers. So I expect us to go out and play very well.
You've got 4 games this week in a short span. How do you attack it physically and mentally in terms of just getting in all those games? For some of these guys, it'll be their first collegiate games. For some of these guys, it'll be their first conference games.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit different with every game being a conference game. So there's not sort of we play a very competitive non-league schedule typically, so it's not like we have any days off. But with this, every game counts from the get-go. So we have to sort of just take it one game at a time. I think this first week we'll use probably the entire pitching staff just to sort of build arms back up post shutdown. So I think as we do that, we're gonna try to build those arms back up. And I'm not really sure lineup wise what we're gonna do with a few spots. There's some pretty good battles going on. We might do some more pinch hitting than maybe we typically would. But I think our top 12 is pretty clear in practice. Our top 12 hitters versus our second group. So I think those are the guys we'll lean on a majority of the way through this first week.
In terms of pitching, obviously this first week you've already mentioned you're going to use a lot of guys, but overall, is this going to be a season where traditionally you've had starters who can go 6-7 innings? Is this maybe we'll see 2 starters kind of piggyback, or maybe even use an opener like the Tampa Bay Rays?
Yeah, I think we've talked about that a little bit. I don't want to tip our hand too much on what our plan is, but we definitely will be. It won't be a traditional year where you're letting guys go 80 to 100 pitches right out of the get-go. And I think we'll build upon that. I think because of the uniqueness of it, we do have the opportunity to maybe kind of do what the Rays have had some success with, and watching some other teams in scouting. I've seen some other teams out there sort of going with more of a staff day approach. But I'm also a believer in kind of riding the hot hand. We're going to also have to keep the long-term goals of the team in mind, with not potentially risking a key arm by pushing it too hard too early. So we'll have to kind of walk the fine line with that. But no, I think we've got good depth on the mound. I think I've really liked what I've seen in the bullpens the last couple of weeks. We have a new pitching coach in Justin Kelly, who's done a tremendous job. And we brought Fernando Burgos back, who's going to be our bullpen coach. So he has a lot of familiarity with the league and the program and the systems. So I think it should be a hopeful strength of the team.
Finally, the one positive to not having played yet is you've gotten to see some of the other teams and see some of those conference results. Outside of Eastern Connecticut State off to a great start, there's a lot of parity in the league, and that's the LAC's always been strong. But seeing so many teams take some early season losses, does that give you hope that, hey, a couple wins here early on and you're in a good spot going into week 2, week 3, and even potentially late in that conference season?
Yeah, we've been cheering for splits, and we've gotten a lot of splits, so that's good. I mean, you don't really want anyone, sweeping their way to a huge lead, and I think it's been interesting sort of watching the scores. There's been a lot of real big lopsided scores with a mercy rule one game, and then the other team mercies the second game. So it's been a little hard to get a pulse on, but I think that also leads to the just sort of unusual nature of this season, where I think, you might see some teams in May who are playing much different than they were in March and early April, and I think some of the teams I expect to play really well in the league, I think will still get there. But right now it's been interesting sort of seeing some of those scores. And I think, I'm just happy that, I feel like, the league is still pretty wide open, you know what I mean? As I think, Eastern seems like they're playing, pretty good baseball. I've had an opportunity to watch them a few different times. I've been able to watch Rick. I've been able to watch Southern Maine a few times. So I feel like I've gotten, the ability to see most of the league so far. I got to see Castleton and Keene State. So we've definitely been using this time to scout and take away all the information we can from LEC TV, and sort of build up our attack and learn about our opponents that way. So I think we'll be ready to rock when the bell rings.
Coach, really appreciate your time. Good luck not only in your opener on Tuesday, but all week long as you play those first 4 games of the season.